new ideas in project management, and the latest trends in career innovation and business agility. This is Project Management on the Go, a podcast by the PMI Northern Italy chapter.
Welcome to everybody and welcome back to our podcast listeners. I am Valerio Casalini, project leader of Northern Italy chapter of PMI. In this episode, we have the great opportunity to talk with Joshua Barnes, the founder and president of Process Mentors Inc., a PMI authorized training partner and consulting partner. Moreover, he is the co-founder and Success Mentors University, a learning platform for disciplined agile and project management certifications and success engineering workshops. Before starting, I would like to ask to Joshua to introduce himself with a brief personal presentation. Welcome, Joshua.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to this podcast. A little bit on my background. So I'm the founder of Process Mentors, and we just celebrated our 20th year. So we have been working with organizations to help them achieve business agility, agile transformations, for roughly the past 20 years. And the thing that I focus on the most, especially these past years, is helping organizations understand the benefit they get while attending to their value streams. A lot of what we're able to do is, focus on the fewest things that can significantly impact people and performance and outcomes. PMI has some of in my opinion, some of the best value stream management guidance. A lot of that is embodied within Disciplined Agile and within the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant workshop, certification and workshop. I had the pleasure of delivering the global pilot for that and have since had the continued opportunity to have lots of people go through that course to understand a bit more about value stream management, how they can help clients of theirs, or help the organization that their employees at.
Excellent, and my compliments. So I would like to start this discussion as we normally do with the definition. What do you mean by value stream if you want to define this sentence?
Yeah, so value streams exist in organizations, and they're the end-to-end set of value-adding activities which together provide consumable value for a customer. And a value stream always begins and ends with a customer, and that customer can be external or internal, right? So we can have, if we're in an organization that's selling products, right? Those are our customers that are buying our products. But we also have customers that are internal, people that are also working within these systems that we create. In my client engagements, one of their value streams, to give you an example, is a direct-to-consumer. It's a global consumer product goods company, and so they have a direct-to-consumer sales value stream, right? And they have lots of digital products that are part of that. And the external customers buy products, but the internal customers that are also having to interact with the functionality in their direct-to-consumer sales portal, for example, are people like product specialists, marketing analysts, brand and comms people. So when we think about value streams and how we enhance and maintain the products or services within them, we're always focused on the customer.
Okay, very clear. Maybe this concept can be associated with the value chain, or there is maybe a difference. So if I ask you, what is the difference between the concept of value stream and value chain?
One of the things that I also, I wanted to mention kind of early on is that value stream management isn't new. It's been around in the physical product development world, right, the manufacturing space for quite some time. But what is somewhat rather new and is still something that we're seeing awareness needs to be, gained in organizations is value stream management for digital products. So when we think about a value chain, and one of the best descriptions that I've been, that I had explained to me at one point was, if you think about farming and you think about how the value chain in farming goes from clearing and preparing the land and getting it ready to seed the land, and then tending to the growth of the plants, getting it ready for harvest, right? And then your harvest going to, maybe a facility to be processed and packaged, ultimately for a consumer to both buy it and then consume it, right? I mean, that's where the value is actually consumed when we eat the product. It's similar, but it is a bit different when we're talking about value stream management, specifically with respect to digital products. One of the things that is absolutely important, and I'm sure I'll be able to talk about this a little bit as we get on a little bit further today, is that we want to take a look at going from ideation, the idea, the request from a customer, a stakeholder has identified something that we feel is going to benefit a customer, and all the way through the process. We call that, at least in the disciplined agile approach, an idealized value stream, where we're decomposing that idea. We're ensuring it's passing through a strategic objective, all the way through portfolio management, all the way through product management activities, to the point where we're ready to implement it, right? Develop it, whether it's an enhancement, again, a digital product, or again, a physical product, all the way through our release management process. So that's a lot of where there are similarities to what a value chain is with respect to our digital products these days.
We have several examples of value chain application. For example, in Italy is a concept related to manufacturing, to the agriculture industry, different companies that works in a value chain. For sure, value stream is a more new concept. As you mentioned, is more related to the digital, to the ideation world. Okay, now I would ask you something more in deep about value stream management. So what do you mean? You already mentioned value stream management, and how is it conducted?
Yeah, so how I define value stream management is focusing on improving the flow of consumable value delivered to customers, whether external or internal, by attending to factors of effective value streams. Now, there are a lot of definitions of what value stream management is. We've got what we find, again, within disciplined agile and in PMI, which is almost identical to what I just spoke. But we also see the Value Stream Management Consortium, we see Gartner, we see Forrester, we see Scaled Agile Framework, right? The 6.0 release has a lot of value stream management content that was brought in, which was great to see. So there's a lot of consistencies from what it is, and that it goes end to end. It's all about the end-to-end flow, again, from an idea request, or again, some form of scope that we're going to do, to something that's consumable. And so some of the things that we focus on with this is delivering value continues to increase in complexity, and is definitely more digital than ever. The result is a growing emphasis on dependency management and coordination. But see, that only gets you so far, right? Alignment and everyone knowing how to move together is much more powerful. And there's a tremendous benefit that comes from alignment at all levels in a value stream, from strategic objectives at an organization level, like the types of things they might be reporting in their financial statements, to the contribution to one of those strategic objectives by a given value stream, all the way down to writing a line of code. And that's what we're looking at. And we're looking at the capacity in the value stream, because we want to keep, work within a manageable amount, right? We all know the detriments of context switching or, multitasking. We want to always be working on what's most valuable. And to do that, we oftentimes need to have a smaller batch size so that we can really have some discrete consumable value that we're able to compare. And then understanding and utilizing an approach for alignment, because alignment is again superior to coordination. And so the factors that we take into consideration are things like building in small-sized increments, decreasing our feedback cycle time. Now, that's one of the best things from an agile way of working, is we're able to get feedback, very, very quickly. So we want to decrease that feedback cycle at all levels. Reduce or eliminate delays. Use visual controls, right? The visualization of our workflows, explicit agreements on how work is moving from one state to another. Building quality into the product or service is so important. And we're always going to have, especially with knowledge work, right? We're always going to have handoff to some degree. We want to watch how many we've got. Again, maybe there's an opportunity for improvement with upskilling people, but we really want to be attending to handbacks, right? And those are oftentimes the result of quality, right? We find a bug, we find an error, so work's got to go backwards in the workflow. Focusing on people around one product or service, right? We see so often that people are doing multiple things, right? Multiple projects or multiple work efforts. So then we have a lot of work in process. We have more of that context switching. And finally, it's looking at the value creation structure. It's how are people arranged? And are they arranged to avoid delays in the workflow? And a lot of times, again, this is where we get into dependency management and lots of coordination effort. But if we just take a look at how people are arranged, can we move people around? Can we possibly move them out of a organizational hierarchy or communication structure that's been around for maybe quite some time to eliminate some of these things that are causing us that friction or that bit of just, again, constant delays that we really need to be attending to?
Thank you, very clear. I think you gave a very interesting point when you mentioned the alignment versus coordination. So maybe many project managers are very, very focused on the coordination, but sometimes lose the alignment to the values, no, to the value stream. So for sure, this is a good point of.
Yeah, and to just give you everyone maybe a mental picture of what this looks like in very simple terms, right? So if you picture a group of like carpenters or construction workers, right? And maybe they're working and you ask one of them, like, hey, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I'm hammering these boards together. That's a task, right? And it would be better if you said, hey, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm building a wall. I mean, yeah, he's hammering boards together, or she, right here, she is hammering boards together. But I'm building a wall. But even better, you ask that same question and they say, I'm building a children's hospital. Yeah, that is where we get alignment. And when you ask team members, you ask developers, you ask project managers, you ask directors of organizations, the further we get removed from like the top executive level, we see a dilution of what those strategic objectives are, right? And so we see very minute things like, yeah, I'm writing some code versus I'm doing this thing that's going to help contribute to us achieving this part of our mission or this part of our overarching, like big bet, the objectives that we're trying to reach.
When you talk, I think, to another very important topic, that is the alignment of value or company value between the executive and the project manager is another topic that we often discuss, no? That sometimes the values are not so spread over the knowledge of all the project managers that in a operational way work on the topic. And so on the contrary, this alignment between the value of the executive and the project manager is fundamental. So
yes.
Okay, so very, very interesting. I would like to ask you some real case or example of value stream application. You already told something, but if you have some more real case or to share with us.
Yeah, so I'll continue on with the real life situation of a customer that's a global consumer product goods company. And so if you think about the types of value streams we would see in an organization like that, I mean, they have direct-to-consumer sales, right, from an online perspective. They also have another value stream that deals with direct-to-consumer sales in physical locations. There's wholesale. There's branded products, white label products that they put brands of other people on and so forth. So all these different ways that they interact with customers. So I'm gonna keep focusing on a bit of the situation with this value stream for direct-to-consumer sales and an online portal. And so some of the products and the projects to enhance and maintain the products are things like the sales portal, but there's an inventory management system, and there's a fulfillment system, and there's some marketing platforms that inject content into the sales portal for descriptions and articles and so forth. So like a lot of organizations, and an approach that's very similar, is that they had an annual budgeting and funding planning event where business cases would be crafted and submitted, and then they'd be evaluated, and some would be approved, and a funding allocation for the next year would be made, and then great, right? I mean, a whole bunch of projects. We get into the new year, and budget's available, and some of these projects were a pretty big scope, right? And some of that's based off of, well, the last project and the budget for last year was X amount of dollars. And so what you find in some of these larger scopes of work is that, yes, they might all be enhancements for the direct-to-consumer sales portal. But when you start looking at that functionality, a lot of it is very different, right? I mean, some of it might be for doing a new business process. Some of it might be for extending something that's been in place for a while. Some of it might be for, again, our internal customers, our product specialists that are managing content and pricing and all of that type of stuff. So from a value stream management perspective, and what we work to focus on is to identify the smallest thing that we could do that would provide consumable value. So if you think about this big project scope and you just lay it out, right, write it on a whiteboard, and you just start circling, right? Use different colors or some way to basically say, well, this is something that if we could just do this, like this is 20% of the overall scope. If we could do this, get it done and release it, would that be beneficial? Well, sure, then we start thinking about things in economic terms, the cost of delay, and if this big giant project was going to get us an additional, $5 million a month in sales, right? Well, if a year goes by, we've lost a whole lot of opportunity for that potential revenue. So the first thing that we do in value stream management with these techniques and approaches is we look at what are the minimum increments from a business perspective, a value perspective we could do. So that's kind of like step one. But now the next thing is oftentimes there's dependencies, there's other work and the other products that have to be done. So if we have some new business process and it's a sales portal and we have to be getting information and passing information back and forth between our inventory management and our fulfillment system, and unless that happens, those enhancements happen, we can't release this other functionality. That's when we get into like feature toggling and dark releases and all this other stuff where value's just kind of sitting and waiting. So what we want to do is we want to look from a whole or a complete perspective of what's all the work. Or, maybe it's the bigger portion of the work, the heavy lifting is in that sales portal. But if we have to also make enhancements in one or more other systems, which typically is going to be other teams, and maybe we also need to be looking at the supporting area. Do we need legal to be looking at anything? Is there marketing? Is there a marketing campaign? Because if we have an objective we're trying to achieve, and we're not going to be able to potentially do that without a marketing campaign, are they available to do the work? Is there budget for the digital assets and the print assets that, maybe they're sponsoring some activities or whatever to raise awareness of this new functionality? So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to make more informed decisions on the smallest thing we can do, right? Because we can size that work better, we can determine its value more discreetly, but we don't want to start that work until we're ready to do everything that is required to get it done. That doesn't mean everybody's got to start on the exact same day, right? Again, if we're doing 3 months worth of work for a chunk of the big scope for our sales portal, and there's, I don't know, a month's worth of work for inventory management and fulfillment, they don't all have to start on the same day. We do want to, at least from a time perspective, get that work done in as close proximity, because again, we can do different dimensions of testing, get different dimensions of feedback. But that's a big part of value stream management, specifically for our digital products, is getting away from these big batches, big scope. And then in addition, it's all the dependencies and everything else that are typically approved, funded, managed, reported on as very discrete units of work, versus if we take that more vertical slice of everything that needs to get done for this capability, to be released, we're going to hopefully get a better return on or a quicker return on investment, or no, we should stop doing so. What we're planning to do maybe to continue to build on that, we probably ought to reconsider that and maybe do something else that would have a higher probability of being successful. Again, it's all about how we're measuring these increments we're releasing. And that what I just described took time. These are some very big shifts in the way that we're looking at the identification of the scope of work, the funding, the funding allocation, the funding approval, how we're going to plan the work and coordinate it and treat that more as one discrete thing. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, this is great and it's easy. No, it's not easy. It's very beneficial most often, but not easy to put into action.
Okay, the next question takes in consideration that the audience of our podcast is mainly composed by project managers that fight every day with a difficult balancing between the different stakeholder needs and might be different value perception from stakeholder. Do you have any suggestion that you could give to these project managers and how the value stream analysis can help their job?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'll also kind of pivot this a little bit to be able to say that it's not so much also helping their job. I feel that project managers, project professionals are one of the best suited people to focus on improving the environment where the work gets done, right? And as organizations realize the benefits of improving their value streams, PMOs and project professionals need to be pivoting from focusing on project and scope, whether in reality or in perception, sometimes it's just a perception thing, to value delivered and how to improve that. So they do this, or they can do this by creating great environments and enabling our agile delivery teams, just delivery teams in general, as well as supporting areas of the organization, the operational people, to focus on achieving that vision of leadership. So most of the problems we see stem from where the work, where the value-adding activities are done, and not the people who are doing the work. Right? So we do see a lot of struggles with project professionals where, well, there's no project manager in Agile, right? That's not on a Scrum team. There's no project manager role on a Scrum team or with an Agile. And so we have all these misconceptions of people in these roles that are very, very experienced, right? They didn't just, if you're a titled project manager, you're part of a PMO, you have your PMP designation, you didn't just get out of school, right? You've normally done a lot of stuff, right? You have a lot of different experiences. You're in a titled position that's typically pretty empowered. You're the decision maker or an influencer of decision. You know how to measure things. You have great relationships typically within your value stream. So those factors or principles for effective value stream management that I covered earlier, a lot of those things should be attended to by, yes, our product owners, our product managers, our agile coaches, everyone. The problem is that they typically don't have the capacity to maybe do that role, let alone work on improving the environment. And that's where a value delivery manager role, that's where a project professional that has capacity to be identifying where work is waiting, right? Identifying where delays are at, understanding, right? Analyzing why we've got delays or why we have systemic delays, and what are the options that potentially would remove that delay, right? Improving the environment. A lot of times there's a big focus on trying to improve the people, improve the teams, like, adopt this new way of working. We're going to get, 4,000% more work out of them. And, if that's the case, you probably got more pressing issues with the people that are in your organization. So that's just rarely the case. So looking at delays, looking at how people are arranged, looking at the size of scope and so forth, those are things that project managers are very, very well positioned to do. So yeah, that's one of the things that I think they can have one of the biggest impacts in making these improvements. If given the opportunity.
So, Joshua, unfortunately, we are almost at the end of our time.
Oh,
But at last, I would like to ask you, as usual, a more personal question. Are there any personal takeaway that you have gained from the value stream study? So not much in the professional life, but more in your personal life.
yeah. As a matter of fact, I do. Right. I mean, like so many, I have to work pretty hard to balance work and life. Right. And so one of my passions, my hobbies is I race sports cars. And I do right. So amateur stuff where I do a lot. I do me and my co-drivers. We do endurance racing. We do a lot of the work. A lot of the maintenance and all the stuff that like we don't pay a professional organization to do this. So one of the things, right, with having limited time in our personal life, especially for things like hobbies, right, is we would myself and again my colleagues, right, when we had time to go and do some work, you're trying to get ready for a race, and it's always last minutes, like a day or two before you're working around the clock, you're exhausted before you ever actually get on the racetrack. So what we try to do is it's like, hey, I've got a day, I got a weekend day. I'm going to go and I got to pick a big thing that I can get done. The problem is you get that big thing done, but within it, there's a bunch of disparate stuff that it's like, okay, that didn't really get anything really moved forward. Or it's like, I did that, and maybe one of my friends, my colleagues would do something similar. It's like, but we still always have all the stuff. We have to redo work, right? And it's always at the last minute, so it's a big flurry. So we've essentially adopted, well, many things, but two things from what I've touched on earlier today is we've essentially identified minimum business increments or minimum value increments, right? We've identified the small little packages of stuff that, like, if I have a certain amount of time, I can go and get something done that really does move our overall workflow forward. We've got an old, a big whiteboard, like a physical whiteboard, right? We keep that in the warehouse where the cars and our tools and everything is at. And so we've put our workflow together, right? And we've visualized, right, the work that needs to get done, things that might be blocked, like, hey, I found, something else that's broken, we need to replace a part or whatever, we've got to order it. And so we've been able to use a lot of what I've learned over the years, and I've helped organizations adopt over the years from a value stream management perspective in a hobby to just make it more enjoyable. I mean, now we do get things done more efficiently. We do, we still have some flurry of activity typically, but much less than we used to. We're in a better place. We enjoy our time when we actually, get to the driving part a whole lot more than we have.
So I wait you to come to Italy to try a Ferrari or Lamborghini very soon.
I'd love it. Yeah, I race Porsches, but I have done a little bit of driving in both Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and they are spectacular cars.
Okay, so thank you so much, Joshua. I have the very, very last question. If anybody of our listeners would like to go in deeper on the topics that you have presented now, where can find more information?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm very proud of is I'm the co-founder of Success Mentors University, and we have a separate URL that'll take you to our value stream management courses, and it's just valuestreammanager.com. So if you go to that, it'll take you directly to our course offerings in value stream management. We've got PMI's Discipline Agile Value Stream consultant course, and then we have a whole number of that's a certification course, and we have a whole number of workshops that we have designed based on the guidance in the DAVSC for leadership and project professionals, for product managers, product owners. A lot of it is more action and example based, so that you leave those workshops with a starter set of what you would potentially be able to put into action, hopefully in a near term. We have also set up, or I had set up a discount code. So if you use, it'd be all one word, but PMI Italy 2023, you'll get a discount on any of our value stream management offerings.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this information. And I would like to thank especially Joshua and our listeners and say goodbye to next episode.
Thank you.
Have you enjoyed this episode? Then don't forget to activate the alerts or to follow us so you will not miss the next ones. This PMI NIC podcast grants you 0.5 PDU. You can report on the PMI CCRS section, online or digital media. We are waiting for you at the next episode of Project Management on the Go.